My name is Wendell Ray Jenkins. I was born in Muskogee, Oklahoma, in the Baptist Hospital, June 26, 1925. My mother's maiden name was Ida Lee C. Jenkins, and there's some possibility that some of my ancestors, since they didn't have birth certificates in the Bible, some of them said that she was born in Wilburton, Oklahoma Indian Territory, or Hugo, Oklahoma Indian Territory, before Oklahoma was a state. My father's name was William Miley Jenkins, and he was born in Lamar County, Texas, or Padley Parish is the county seat. I've been wanting to make one of these recordings to let everybody know exactly who I was and let them know something about my life, since a man named Drew Michaels wrote, of all things, a TV script, and I don't know if they're going to ever film it or not, about my life story. I write for a newspaper column here. First, I wrote for the Old Ship Channel News, late W.D. Worley, which is no longer published. I work for the Gazette Express newspaper. I write the Old Salt column there. I wanted to tell some people about my life. A lot of people has asked me about different parts of my life, and lots of encouragement has been given me to write autobiographies. I remember it's Gone with the Wind, or Tomorrow's Another Day. Well, that's when my mother, the late Ida Lee C. Jenkins, used to take us to Piggly Wiggly stores, and when she'd get oranges, but I knew if she got oranges, we'd get castor oil. And I asked her one time why the oranges weren't all orange like that. She said, well, the sun kissed these. I said, well, why don't you dye these oranges? She said, well, what would you use? You couldn't use clothes dye. I said, no, but you use the same kind of dye that we have that you make our Easter eggs with. And this is just some of the things. On the way up there one time as a small child, some papers flew out of this woman's hand, and she was trying to get them, and she was chasing after the paper. She and I was helping her pick them up, and my mother was too. There's two ladies there at the train station in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And she said, oh, get that one, little boy, I need that one. And I kept trying to get it, and I told her, it's gone with the wind. And she said, what'd you say, little boy? I said, it's gone with the wind. I said, but anybody in Muskogee, if you need that paper that bad, will let you look up on top of the building and find it. That's in the days of the Dust Bowl, or when they had a lot of whirlwinds in Muskogee. They get pretty strong winds there. So my mother told me that one time when I went out there to see why old Bossy the cow hadn't came in when they were in Muskogee. And it was my job to slop the pigs, feed the chickens, and we always had to do something to fix the barbed wire fence, and things like that, or dig the garden to plant the stuff, or plant flowers with her. And I used to do these things. One letter she was writing, a page blew out of her hand, and she came to call me, and she said, I said, I'll get her. Mother said, no. I said, that's all right, son. He said, this is old Bossy will come home, the milk cow. Says the paper is gone with the wind. And I said, well, we'll look for it there. I said, yes, but tomorrow's another day. And so this is many, many years ago. And I remember a lot of these things as, like sliced bread. She asked me how I'd slice bread. She used to make bread for people, and about mayonnaise and stuff. I used to help her with this, or grind the sausage, meat grinders, and she had these old, they always made your own clothes, we always had a quilting frame, She made her quilts and everything. But one time she was canning, and I asked her what we was going to have to eat for, you know, for then they called it dinner instead of dinner and supper. She said, we're going to have chicken. I said, but it'd take too long. When you're canning stuff in the pressure cooker. She said, well, I don't cook this chicken in a pressure cooker. Later on one time I was over in Georgia, and I happened to run into the old Colonel's nephew, Colonel Harlan Sanders, and I rode with him up through Kentucky. And I spent the night with his family up in the hills. But there's a traveling salesman came in, and he told me, oh, I got a chance to sell $1,000 worth of merchandise, which is a lot of money in those days, but I have to be in Cincinnati in the morning. And I'd sure like to have some chicken. So I asked the old Colonel, always kept a deal, and I say, hot water. I said, you have a pressure cooker there? Yes. I told him how to cook that chicken in a pressure cooker, and we was talking with his salesman and everything, and he cooked that chicken, he brought it out and handed it to him. And he said, I thought it was just happy over this dead. He said, that's the best damn chicken I ever ate in my life. I said, well, that's what you call old Oklahoma cooked chicken, or something like that in North Texas, or something like that. I said, he said, that sure was good. I said, well, I like my chicken finger looking good myself. But that was history, with potatoes and gravy. That's the way my uncle used to take his, since this was on, take his finger like that, lick his tongue like that over it, with my aunt or any of the family cooked chicken. Well, my mother and them used to cook, see, because I was raised in Oklahoma. A lot of my people were American Indians or married to Indians, and some of them still hunted with bow and arrows in Oklahoma. Now, this is just some of the things that I'm putting on this cassette to let the people know that wasn't Colonel Harlan Sanders' original recipe. It's my late mother's, Ida Lee C. Jenkins, and she's buried in, I believe it's July the 23rd there in 1934, but she's buried in Frozen Rock Cemetery in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And I just wanted the people to know that my late father worked for the Muskogee Iron Works. That's where I got a lot of the ideas. I always had sort of like a imagination on how to do things. Like riding a bus one time through Tennessee, I run across a man that had been Piggly Wiggly's, and that thrilled me to death. He said that the butchers had put him out of business. I said, did you ever think about butchering your own meat and putting a wrapping around them so it wouldn't turn, there, and have them in meat cases and all these stuff, I told them how I'd go about doing this. Now you got frozen food there, you got these meat cases, things to preserve, and you can have a lot of these things. Like my mother used to can peaches or bread and butter pickles and stuff that I like. Or we had plenty of blackberries. We had blackberry cobbler, peach cobblers, and all things. She used to make her own hominy. She made all of her own clothes, but she died in 1934, and that's when I came to the state of Texas, to my grandfather's in Dallas. You see, one of my grandfathers, my mother's father, was a cartoonist born in Tupelo, Mississippi. I had a lot of relatives in Mississippi besides my mother's. The Morrisons down there are related to the Jenkinses. That's just some of the people, but I got relatives all over the country. And a lot of my people are, a lot of the Jenkins, I believe there's a Jenkins County, Georgia. The reason why I went to Kentucky, because I knew there's a Jenkins County, Jenkins, and even a Jenkinstown, Kentucky up there. But I had one relative that was born there, my dad's I don't know if it was great grandmother who, named Emma Ryan Morrison was born in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I'm descended of a lot of supposed to be famous people in life. One of them is is a Baptist preacher named Reverend Matthew Ward, who was captured by General Cornwallis during the American Revolutionary War with muskets and powder for the American Revolutionary War Army. But the McGills got away. That was a lot of my mother's people. And according to the Jingsley family tree, they was related to a lot of the people on the Mayflower, but the Bates woman was the only one on there that married a Jenkins. So the Jenkinses is a big clan. They got their own song. Now this is just some of the things my mother's people were really American Revolutionary War heroes. But I just wanted to set the record straight while I'm here, and all these years that I've been a merchant seaman, is to really let the people know something about my life and where I was born and what I did. The first newspaper I ever sold was the Muskogee Times-Democrat, the extra editions in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Now I have here one of the papers here, the issues there. This one's called the Gazette-Express newspaper. And let me write over here where I got, see, under the old salt column. Old salt means an old seaman. Always got something in there about the sea, or the seaman. And, well, this is here some column here about different things that different people that I know. And it says, here's something, I'll read something to. Not many people in this area celebrate Columbus Day, and it's been some years since I was on a ship that sailed to Genoa. Although I walked through the alleys and so forth that Columbus once walked through. They had a good seamen's club there. Prince Andrew Dory gave his palace for the seamen. You could get meatballs and spaghetti there, but in restaurants I ate in, they served spaghetti only with meat sauce, and they put a bottle of Chianti on the table instead of water or coffee, unless you ordered coffee or water. I retrieved some sea biscuits one time, which I did, from the Andrea Door. We was in the shipyard, and they had one of these lifeboats and stuff there. And of course, I was in that area later on the ship that was the SS Cape Cod that was in that same kind of fog at when it collided with the Stockholm there. And I had an idea who Andrea Dore was. The only time I had spaghetti with meatballs then was at the Seamen's Club. It was a very beautiful place and had a lot of old carvings. You know, in Italy they have plenty of statues and carvings. It was in Venice that I first ate spaghetti ashore in Italy, and that was the truth. And that was the only time I'd seen Queen Elizabeth. She was on the ship, the Britannica was paying a visit there. But I'd also saw the Britannica and Napoli, Italy. But I have been to London, of course. I've been all over the world as a seaman. And I was talking about the Grand Canal and the places I've been, and, you know, just some of the things that I've been, some of the people I know, like a lot of people, you know, in their life, you know, a lot of people. Some of the old fighters I used to rub down with, William Deere Mullins and William Muskogee, and I knew a lot of fighters, even Evander Holyfield today. One time, him and I and Frank Tate rode a plane from Chicago, and nobody recognized it. Only one guy knew who I was, and he was an old buddy of mine, that former union official and everything of the National Maritime Union. I would like to explain some other place I've sailed as a merchant seaman. I've been all over the earth, so to speak. And I've enjoyed going to sea and working with ships around seamen. I met people from all walks of life. I remember one of the people that we was trying to get interested into it was a man named Gaston Jones. He had a man up there in his there by the name of George Bush. And I remember that George Bush fought all the way down to the wire, you know, like you do in the ring, you know, that. And I called him up. I believe it was his wife answered the phone. I said, at least he ought to accept the vice president's job. And today he is the president of the United States. But that was me and a man named former business agent Kirby McDowell used to meet with Gaston Jones and them. And I believe that we had some plans of the Cuban Missile Bases that saved an estimated 90 million American lives. A lot of people has asked me about, of all people, Audie Murphy. Me and a boy named J.L. Hall went up to see his grandmother was thinking about trying to get into the service. And we went to this little town up close to Farmersville. And I decided I'd go back to Dallas. And I walked through this little community, and the man was standing there. He said, I asked him which was the best way to get to the highway. He said, just right straight down the road. I forget how many miles now. I said, well, that's good, thank you. And I started on, and he called me back. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to the highway. Walked down there. He said, somebody surely give me a ride. He said, oh, not around here. Everybody, I know everybody around here. They won't be going to the highway there. That's way back, you know, in the Depression years. So he said, wait a minute, I got to go in and talk to my wife. So he went in and talked to his wife. She was cleaning up the little cafe there. Says, I want you to know, and as soon as my wife gets through, that she won't let me stand there, she's cleaning up, that we're going to take you over to Farmersville and get you a ticket to Dallas. And I thanked him, and he called me back there and told me, go on in there and get the chili. I went in and had a bowl of chili and come back out, and I seen that shadow on that old cotton gin coming up. And sure enough, I better put on my Merchant Marine cap here. There was a shadow come up there, and the boy was Audie Murphy, and he yelled, hey, Audie, how you doing? Oh, fine, Mr. So-and-so. He said, I've been looking for you. He said, yeah. I said, you've been looking for me? He said, yes, I've been looking for you. I said, he said, J.L. tells me you and him is going to try to get in the service. He said, that's right. He said, well, I'm going to go too. I said, you going to go too? He said, yeah, I want to go. I'm going to go too. So we decided then if he wants to go, we just, you know, I guess he'd go. Anyway, I never will forget what the man, he said, well, Audie, are you serious? He said, who's going to take care of your mother? He said, well, I said, and your sister? He said, well, if I'm in the service, they'll send the money. He said, well, you know, you work for me sometime. He said, yes, and I do. But in the meantime, he got a bowl of chili, and his wife come out there and decided to drive me over to Dallas because they wanted to ride the roller coaster, which had been the old Texas Centennial and the Pan American Exposition back in the 30s to the fairgrounds there. But my father wouldn't sign the papers for me to go into the Army because my brother, Jack, William Jack Jenkins, had been in there. William Aaron Jack Jenkins, been in there for about 3 years, and he was only 17 in the National Guard. Said he wanted to keep one son. But later on, I went into the Merchant Marine. Audie and J.L. went into the Army, and J.L. got killed during the D-Day invasion in France. And Audie lived through the war, went on to become America's greatest hero, most decorated hero. Anyway, this is just some of the things that and I've brought up. And a lot of people ask me about talking about the fairgrounds. Ernest Tubb. I remember Ernest Tubb. He used to sing under tractors, and he'd go to these smaller cities and sing around the courthouse square. And he wanted to get some Roger silverware. This guy used to hire me, and I had to selling newspapers during the fair, and he'd say, he said, well, I see you got they give you that silverware 3 times today, son. You know, they just having silverware, and they was pitchmen as Conrad Christian, Christensen, and White, and a brother-in-law out of Denver, Colorado. And every year they'd hire me, give me about $3 a day. That was a lot of money. I made less than $1 selling newspapers, but that was a lot of money too in those days. Anyway, old Ernest Tubb, I asked him, I said, what do you do anyway, Ernest? He said, besides pick a guitar in that tent over there. He said, I picked a little cotton. I said, well, hell, everybody's picked cotton. You know, at least I thought everybody. But I never will forget Ernest Tubb there. That was a long, long time ago. And I remember we used to go to church, and I believe it was Dale Evans that got us preaching on the radio with WFAA in Dallas. Of course, I knew a lot of people then. In those days, I knew Conrad Hilton hired one of our street circulators to be a doorman for him. That's where all of the movie stars used there, and he judged, I believe it was Jack Pepper. I used to talk to him. Ginger Rogers stayed in Hollywood. And I knew Rand Wild, you know, the big band leaders. You ever see Phil Harris? They had a guy who played the Sugar Blues with his hands like Clyde McCoy could. And of course, I think he married Alice Faye. But I met a lot of famous people in those days because I was a street corner newsboy. And even Benny Binion, the big gambler, and he's dead now, but I knew him as a friend as a newspaper boys in those days. Not as a gambler or anything else. Because they all used to buy newspapers on the corner, you know, from the newsboys. And that was an honest profession. And a lot of these boys went on to become famous. And I know I'm right here in town one time, I believe it was me and Dick Gottlieb. You saw a paper out, the old Dallas Dispatch Journal, for Mr. Fagan. He is a former Houston City councilman and everything. But a lot of people has asked me about Hank Williams. I knew Hank Williams when his name was, I always called him Hiram. You spell it with 2 R's, H-I-R-R-A-M. Some people call it Hiram, but I always said Hiram. And he was on the towboat in the Intercoastal Canal named Matadiel. I never will forget trying to teach him how to write this music. And about us, and this gal changed the lock on his door, which actually happened. And it's in the song too, Move It On Over. And about, I was up in that boxcar one night, and our boat had sailed and everything, and had that old guitar he used to keep behind the galley stove. And he said, you know, I'm so lonesome I could cry. I'm not going to end all that, because he kept me, I believe it was $50 or $100 for writing some songs for a guy he used to play with in Texas City Y, and he didn't like him. And I knew, get that. I said, well, it's back to the boxcar. I told him, don't give me the money, give it to Hiram and let him go down. And I said, go get us one of them $6 a night luxury hotel rooms. So I never will forget, you know, that song like, you're cheating hard, and hey, good looking, as that cook used to take the stuff in there and up to these girls there and take Sailor's Retreat. Some of those buildings are still standing there. I never will forget that either. And I never will forget Elvis Presley either. But old Hiram Williams was something else. And I get tickled there about that. I know he's dead now, but about how him and I had run around together, and that guy wanted to come look me up to write him some songs. He said, "No, don't write nothing for that SOB, because I don't like him. I played with him at the Texas City Wild, and all them songs like your You're Cheating Heart originally came from me, and Hey Good Looking, I go back and I got in that old Mac I cooked and say, hey Good Looking, what you got cooking? How about cooking up something good for me? And about the time I stirred him up there at Sailor's Retreat, and old Mac was sitting on his girlfriend's lap, I said, hey, is that your girlfriend there? I acted like we was going to walk by there. I said, come on here, let's just see who's in here. He wanted to go back and get his guitar. I said, what do you want to go back and get your guitar for before we got to, because he said, we might not be coming back. I said, well, go get the thing in, So he got the guitar. There's an old engineer on there used to call him, Henry or Hank. And the old man liked him. And of course, I won't go into all this because I've written it in my column, like the old soft column here, a lot of this stuff. But I remember when my grandfather died, we went to Mississippi. A lot of people ask me about Elvis. I don't like to explain these things to people, but it was me. I first saw him there. There's an old guitar on the bulkhead, what we call the bulkhead, or the wall. And I picked this guitar up, and I started playing around with it. And I seen this kid out there. My dad told me to go holler at my great uncle Arthur Morrison. I had one aunt that was completely deaf named Lena Morrison, and we went down there to pick her up for my grandfather's funeral. And in Dallas, and I hollered, hey, the breakfast is ready, and my great aunt told me to go back and holler, the biscuits is ready. And anyway, later on we met them at a gas station up there at an old place, and one of my cousins there. And now Elvis wanted a pair of shoes. He kept going back and forth. Anyway, he got his shoes. And he come running in there, and he heard that guitar. He said, that's my guitar. And I thought he was out there plowing, I said, this your guitar? And he said, yes. I said, well, you play pretty good? He said, yeah, people come and get me to entertain. I said, do you ever think about making your own records? And, and leaving with these people to play if they like you that much? He said, well, yes, I have, thought about things like that. And anyway, I said, well, I'll tell you how you can do that. And so later on that day, we had to get back to Dallas for the funeral. This is in Utica, Mississippi, not Tupelo. And we met him and his father. They was waiting on us. My father let them have some money, I believe $17. And I thought they was going to Dallas with us at the funeral. I never seen him before in my life. Anyway, that guy let him have a pair of shoes because of us. And one of my cousins down there in Mississippi, I don't know if he ever paid for them shoes or not. If they don't, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble after all these years. They'll never forgive that for that. And because I never seen them people before. My life didn't even know I was related to all those people. And this was when we was talking. He told me he was trying to get this pair of shoes. Anyway, I said, he said, I've been thinking about what you were saying about making, his records. I said, well, when we get to Dallas, I'll take you over and show you where you can record your own record, one of these places. And, like the GIs used to make their own records and send them in and send home and all that stuff, messages. And a lot of my friends used to make their own recordings, and these record shops had a place you could record. So He said, well, we're going to Memphis. To Memphis? I said, you're not going to Dallas? No, we're going to Memphis. I said, what do you do anyway? He said, I got a woman way across town that's good to me. I said, oh, you got a sweet mama. I looked around there and I said, you mean around here? He said, no, in Memphis. So I said, well, we got talking more about the records then. I said, what do you think I ought to write about and everything? I said, well, just what you told me. I got a woman way across town that's good to me. Now, this is just some of the things that I bring up that I think of when I'm writing my newspaper column, the Old Salt column, for the Gazette Express newspaper. I've written many, many things about my life and times on vessels and ships and things that I've been on, and I've been a merchant seaman, and I'm doing this for my family, for my daughter Kathleen Ellen as Jenkins Evanson, and my grandson Justin Evanson, which are my heirs, my sole heirs. I guess they get everything I got, which I doubt will be anything at this day and time unless the wheel of fortune turns on there, I hit the jackpot. But anyway, I just want you people to know these are some of the things that I'm just recording. I'm a little hoarse today, and once the weather's kind of bad here in Houston today. But I want you to know that I was a lot of these songs and everything. A lot of people say, like the Okie from Muskogee was actually at the Seacourse, and boy, it's dead now. That another guy had a recording there. We was talking about this guy, and he said, this guy's from Oklahoma too. I said, yeah. He said, come back here. He said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Muskogee. They was talking about getting high. I said, well, you know, one thing, we don't smoke marijuana in Muskogee, and we don't make our trips on LSD, and we don't burn our draft cars down on Main Street, not Muskogee, Oklahoma, USA. Well, later on, I might get a chance to make some more recordings, but I got meet somebody that's waiting for me now, and I'm a little bit late, and it's about 3:25 here in Houston, Texas, and this is my old salt column, and let me put on my old black watch cap, you know. Like the Bible said, they, the men, they go down to the sea in ships and do business in great waters. And I hope whoever listens to this or sees this enjoys it, because I want to really get together on this thing. This is just done on the spur of the moment, but I just wanted to let the people know where I was born and some of these things. This is not even the tip of the iceberg, and so to speak, of anything. And I've done is help create history, but I want to know that human blockade has saved an estimated 90 million American lives, and I've known a lot of people in my life that listened to me that later on became famous. I guess I'll just have to keep talking. I can't find Wade Hughes Jr., the port agent of the Maritime Union here. But I really enjoyed making this recording. I wasn't a little bit hoarse today, and a little bit more dressed up, but being a merchant seaman, I guess it really doesn't make any difference. By the way, my daughter, Kathleen Ellen Jenkins, was born in Dallas, and her mother's name was Betsy Torres Strove Jenkins, and that's where I met her mother, is in Dallas. And of course, a lot of people say, something I just seem like I claim all the kids. All the kids, seem like I always like kids. Of course, my people always like kids too, you know. And I enjoy making this recording there, and And this is, I hope everybody enjoys this recording. I'm going to try to get some extra tape and run it just to see if it's how it is or how good it is. I'm trying to look and see if he's going to come in here right now, but anyway, as the old saying goes, by the way, they that go down to the sea in ships.
What y'all doing?
The 23rd.
Take some numbers.
It's the 23rd to the 30th verse and the 107th Psalm of the King James Version of the Bible. And see, I'm still waiting for this guy. I know I can show up and cut this thing off. Let's see if I can find him again. Here. See, well, I guess I'm just going to have to sit here and think of something to say. I was in the U.S. Maritime Service in 1943, and I got so many calls. I don't know how I ever got messed up, but the draft board, I had to report to the draft board. Of course, I always reported to the draft board as a merchant seaman until I was 45 years old. And on my way to Vietnam, I got the card said 5A, and I got off the ship when I went in there to find out what that 5A was. And they told me then I was too old to go into the military. Of course, I was on an ammunition ship in Korea. Oh man, I've been everywhere, it seemed like. One of these days, if time permits, if I get one of these cameras of my own, I'll just sit down and give my whole history of my life and how I went to sea, and from beginning to end, like at the time Jim Thorpe and I used to drop kick the football in Muskogee. A long time ago, I was Chief Podolak's bad boy, and we had a real good baseball team. A lot of people heard of us. They even had another team called Muskogee Midgets, but Jim Thorpe wanted to play baseball with us. And one time he seen me out kicking the football, and he come out and he said, let me see you do that again, Lennon. And I kicked it, and he said, now let me show you how I kicked it. We run together, talked together, and Jim Thorpe seemed to always like me. He was a merchant seaman too in the Second World War, and I don't want this thing to
What you doing?
To run here. I'm making this recording here. I'm trying to get somebody there. By the way, I got sisters. I had Louise Jenkins, my youngest sister, M.I.N.S. Jenkins was my oldest sister. My brother's name William Jack Jenkins. I got one baby sister that's dead, and Elizabeth Ann died as a baby and buried in Green Hill Cemetery in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And my father got a job with Muskogee Arm Works because he drive a Model T Ford truck. And he was working with Muskogee Arm Works in Muskogee when I was born. Belonged to the Arm Workers Union. Of course, he always believed in organized labor. And I guess that's where I got the instinct to belong to the unions and everything. It's through organized labor. Of course, the labor movement, and he belonged to the labor movement. He was buried in the I believe it's SPNJ or something, SNJP or something, section of the Woodlawn Cemetery in Forest Park, Illinois. He died up there and he was buried there. And my mother's buried in Frozen Rock Cemetery in Muskogee, Oklahoma. It's an old cemetery. And there's a lot of history behind those old Oklahoma cemeteries. I remember as a young boy, we used to go up into Cookson Hills, fish, and nobody was up there. A lot of fish, a lot of wild game. and a lot of wild blackberries and stuff that we picked, and well, just a lot of things that we did. But times has changed. Instead of Model T Fords, you know. I remember a lot of things. I remember last time I seen Will Rogers is that he came to our house. My mother made him promise he'd go over and see his sister. He had promised sister before. But I remember watching the last thing I heard her tell him after she made him promise to go over there that something's always funny when it's happening to somebody else. I never will forget that. I had an uncle, or baby brother, who was Matthew Elijah C. Jr. Buster's. He used to ride in the rodeos like Will Rogers. But Wiley Post wasn't with him that time. And that's the last time I ever seen Will Rogers. And she used to put him up to go on places. He loved my mother, and he'd do anything, you know, for him. But I never will forget. That's the last time I ever saw him. That's when she promised him. He has a nephew that's the man she was, Tom Jenkins. I mean, not Tom Jenkins, but Tom Max Spadden. Tom Jenkins, Thomas was my grandfather's brother. Thomas Max Spadden, Tom Max Spadden, was a judge here, Michael T. Max Spadden's nephew. He was married to, his Uncle Tom was married to Will Rogers' sister. So a lot of things that's quoted by him, as my mother actually said about that. I'll never forget that. And a lot of people asked me one time about why we want to get Sarah T. Hughes appointed as a federal judge. That was done at the request of the district attorney and Doug Crouch, and grand jury district attorney for him, Stanley Caulfield. I used to drive for Governor Price Daniels. Of course, I used to take more from Congressman J.J. Jake Pickle. And either George Christian delivered my messages to Governor Daniel, which I reported on to Governor Daniel, who was married to Sam Houston's great-great-granddaughter. And Sam Houston's used to live with one of my Indian grandmother's people in Oklahoma there. And that was what them women were doing that was writing this story and wanted to know about the old Fort Gibson, where General Robert E. Lee served, U.S. Grant, Taylor, Tyler, and even Jefferson Davis was a court-martial there, the Confederacy, President of the Confederacy, because he wouldn't review his troops in a driving rainstorm. It was Chief Mad Buffalo that wiped out those people, and they put that old graveyard of the army, they call it. But actually, Sarah T. Hughes was a nice woman. She's a woman that swore in Lyndon Johnson for president of the United States in Dallas. But I won't go into all that because I've written a lot of stories there. But that's exactly how that. And Ross Sterling, we tried to help him. He's dead now, but he is Governor Ross Sterling. He was named after him. Nephew as a federal judge here. This is just some of the people that I've known, and just little bits and dabs of history as they come into my mind while I'm waiting for this guy to come back and turn this thing on so I can run it back and see how it comes out. See how it's played. Let me go see if I can get it.
All right, I hope everything came out all right, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and it's been a pleasure for me to know your grandfather, and he's been a tremendous help and a friend to me. I'm Kale, his friend.
That's
And you want to watch it replay?
No,
Well, you can watch it.
I'm supposed to meet old Coates up there. I'm a little bit late. Can you run that thing back? I'll have several of them sent out, and I'll just send them out to my brother and, sister and that.